Namaskar friends, a warm welcome to Through Literary Lens new episode. I am Rajesh Asudani Raqeeb, as all of you know, and with me is none other than our co-host Dr. Vinod Asudani. Namaskar Vinod ji.
Namaskar.
But today he has multiple roles. He is not only the co-host, but he is the guest as well. I mean, you understood what I mean. Today we are going to discuss one of his own books. Naturally, as we know, he is the author of 37 published books.
This is 38.
This is 38th book which we will be discussing today. And it has been published by none other than Sahitya Akademi, Central Sahitya Akademi. And Vinod ji himself is the recipient of Sahitya Akademi Award 2023 in Sindhi language. So, and I have introduced him many times. He is a polyglot, knows several languages, has PhD in multiple subjects, including English literature. And so, to cut the long story short, he is a person who knows the literature, sociology, history, inside out. And we have the great opportunity, great honor of conversing with him today on the monograph which he has written jointly along with Mr. Kishore Lalwani, who is a well-known dramatist in Sindhi. So this monograph is written on the famous and a stalwart Sindhi poet, Shri Arjan Hasid. Shri Arjan Hasid needs actually no introduction for the people who read Sindhi literature, but he is a great poet, one of the greatest poets of the modern times, and he was the Sahitya Akademi Fellow also at the time of his death few years ago. So, and we know that getting Sahitya Akademi Fellowship, Vinod ji, is a rare honor.
Yeah, and to share with the listeners, at any given time,
there are only 21.
21 fellows, including all the 24 languages recognized by the Sahitya Akademi. And once any writer or scholar is appointed as a fellow of Sahitya Akademi, it is for lifetime. Only upon the demise of a present fellow,
the vacancy
occurs and the new fellow is nominated.
Recently, I think it was conferred on Ruskin Bond a few months ago.
Yes, you are absolutely right. And Arjan Hasid happens to be the second Sindhi poet to get this honor of becoming fellow of Sahitya Akademi. Before him, Mr. Malkani was appointed as a fellow of Sahitya Akademi.
And naturally, Shri Arjan Hasid has also been awarded by Sahitya Akademi. He has received Sahitya Akademi Award in 1983.
85 basically. On his collection of ghazals.
Mero Sij.
Soiled Sun.
I think you have also translated that.
And my friend Ram Daryani, we have jointly translated it into English.
But today we are going to discuss the monograph which you have written on the poet jointly with Mr. Kishore Lalwani. And this monograph was commissioned by Sahitya Akademi in their series, The Makers of Indian Literature. That's a series by Sahitya Akademi. And many monographs have been written on various personalities from various Indian literature. So in that series, this is the monograph which was commissioned by Sahitya Akademi to be written by you and Mr. Kishore Lalwani.
And about this series, this series covers writers and poets from all the 24 languages of India. Monograph on a particular writer is to be written after his death, as a tribute to his life and creative journey.
And Mr. Arjan Hasid, is it? People
call it
Arjan. People call Arjun generally.
Not Arjun, but Arjan, Arjan.
So he passed away in December 2019.
26
December. Right? 2019.
to tell something about his life.
Yeah,
right?
definitely. We'd like to know in detail about
Yeah.
his life, which you have portrayed in one of
First
his
chapter
chapters.
of this
First chapter.
monograph,
Yeah,
and
sure.
the viewers can look at this monograph, which is in my hand.
Yeah.
This is the monograph published by Central Sahitya Akademi, New Delhi, and the copies of this monograph are available from the Sahitya Akademi, right?
So
And-
entire series that should be available from Sahitya Akademi, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Makers of Indian
Yes.
literature. And we would do well, anybody of us would do well to read the series, to know our literatures in great detail of various languages.
Yes, yes.
Huh?
And Arjan Hasid, of course, he was born on 7th of January 1930.
So
in
he shares
Sindh.
the same sunshine with you, Vinodji.
Oh, yeah.
Same sunshine is there. Your 1st January is your date of birth.
yes.
Yeah.
So he was born
wonderful.
in
Yeah.
undivided India.
Yeah.
And any writer is influenced by his socio-cultural context. Besides possessing a genius of the first order, Arjan Hasid, when he was barely 17 years of age, India was partitioned.
Yes.
And this partition was a great blow to the Sindhi community, because as we know that the entire Sindh province was lost to Pakistan in the
Yes.
process of the partition.
Yes.
And the millions of people, millions of Sindhis who migrated from Sindh to India, Arjan Hasid was one young boy at that time. So it was the perhaps first acquaintance with agony, with the profound sense of loss.
Yes.
And this
It was the
profound,
largest displacement in the world.
yeah,
at
and
that time.
the sense of profound loss continues to linger in his poetry in one form or the other. And then naturally, he was hardly matriculate at that time. So he had to face the problems of shelter, job, right? And with great difficulty, once he was talking to me, right? He said through the, on the recommendation of some acquaintance, he managed to get a job as a lower divisional clerk in post office.
Acha.
In a post office, right?
Okay.
And that was a great boon. At least he could sustain himself, right? And when he retired, he was promoted to the, headmaster,
Headmaster.
head postmaster,
Head postmaster of that post office.
post office,
Yeah.
right? Now, Rajesh ji,
Mhm.
when we look at his writings, especially his ghazals,
Yeah.
they are so great. They have transformed, the journey of Sindhi ghazal. That will come to that point later on. But just you think, a person who is such a great, talented poet,
Yes.
all his life working as a clerk
Right.
in the post office, in the what kind of facilities we have for the great creative writers in our society.
Yeah, I mean, it happens many a times that many of the great poets, great literators, they are just menial workers. I mean, I think Narayan Sham,
Yes.
who was another great Sindhi poet about whom we have also talked, he was also a clerk in Delhi.
Yes, Delhi. He had to travel in the city buses, writing his poems on the back side of the ticket.
Greatest lyrical poet of Sindhi, I should call
Yeah,
him.
greatest aesthetic poet, greatest
so-
romantic poet, you can say.
Yeah. And when Shri Arjan Hasid was also the LDC in the post office, or all through his life he worked in the post office, I just can't help myself from remarking, Vinodji,
Yeah.
that imaginative transformation. He must be delivering the letters, he must be receiving the letters,
Yes.
conveying the letters. So it must have affected his poetry, through imaginative transformations.
Definitely, because see, poetry arises
Yeah.
out of intense imagination and intense emotional fervor.
Yeah.
And to look at his career, right? Interestingly, this monograph I have started with one quote, right? I have made the necessary modifications in that quote. Arjan Hasid, when he started writing, he found Sindhi Ghazal as bricks. When he passed away and left Sindhi Ghazal, he left it as a marvel.
Oh yes.
So
Wonderful.
Yeah. That is the transformation.
Yeah.
So his first book, the Fragrance of Breaths, it was published in 1966, and you would appreciate that 60s was the time when the progressive movement was in its full swing, right? That social consciousness was there. There was the impact of the communism, and the writers across the languages they were talking of the committed poetry, the poetry of the social reform, the poetry of the welfare of the subaltern. So all these influences were there, on Arjan Hasid as well. In his initial, collection of ghazals, if you read that, you will find that social concerns are there, right? He's talking of the new dawn. He's talking of the equality between man and man. He has great sympathy with the downtrodden and the poor, right? And he's hopeful that this world would emerge as a better place.
So we can call him the progressive writer at that time.
Yes. And when you read his first collection of the poetry, you would think that he's just another ordinary poet of the 50s and 60s. There is hardly anything, great that can separate him from the other ordinary poets.
Run-of-the-mill progressive poets.
Yes, nobody could have believed that in the coming next 4 to 5 decades, he would become such a great poet and stalwart in the lighthouse of the Sindhi poetry.
So, what transformation do you think Vinodji happened in his poetry, or what is it that makes him the extraordinary poet?
There are poets who stuck to a particular idea in their life, and throughout the life they continue to hum the same tune, right? But Arjan Hasid, in my opinion, he kept his sensibility and the sensitivity alive. He could receive the signals, he could receive the impressions from his inner heart and mind, as well as from outside the world, and he was able to put his finger on the changing and the transforming times inside and outside both, right? And these changes that were taking place in the world, that were taking place in the society, and at the same time as he grew up, naturally his creative mind also became mature. In 1974, his second collection of ghazals, right? Patthar Patthar Kanda Kanda, that is stones and thorns.
Yeah.
Here you will find romantic impulse, right? His ghazal has acquired romantic tone, although he has not completely shed off his social concerns. So from social commitment to love and romance, this early transformation you are able to see in Arjan Hasid. The real Arjan Hasid emerges with his third collection of ghazals, Soiled Sun, on which he got Sahitya Akademi Award. Here he makes his presence felt, and he tells the readers he is no longer an ordinary poet. He has something different to offer. He has the potential to take Sindhi ghazal altogether on the new path. This Soiled Sun is different from the traditional ghazal in the sense that he has not used ordinary language of the ghazal, that is wafa, bewafa, bulbul, parwana, milan, judai.
So
that is
typical language he has not used.
Yes, his typical language, typical words he has not used. Number one, and number two, here you will find the humanistic concerns. He has become a humanist poet. Human values occupy the prominent position. Now he has left behind the social concerns. He has left behind the moonlight of romanticism. Now he is concerned with the true melancholy, true agony of human life, and the things that attract him in Soiled Sun. The things suddenly have become difficult for the people, right? The disillusionment has set in, setbacks are set in, and we have lost that dreamlike quality which was promised by Indian independence or by socialism or by the communism. So all these things have fallen apart.
So do you mean to say that he was disenchanted?
Yes, disenchanted and disillusioned. Okay. And he was trying to come to terms with the bitter reality. But as a poet, even he has the capacity to impart aesthetic and artistic touches to the bitter reality, and his ghazal arises not out of hollow sentimentalism but out of the reality which is rooted in the life, but at that same time he has the capacity to lift our consciousness up.
Wonderful. I mean,
yes,
the emotional transformation or the imaginative transformation which occurred at that time, and even post that collection also, when he continued to mature, This is very remarkable. As you said, many of the poets, they set their tone initially and they just continue to hum the same tune throughout the life.
And about Arjan Hasid, when I studied him thoroughly, right, every new collection was a step ahead. He does not repeat himself as such in terms of content matter, or even in the terms of style.
So he was intellectually as well as emotionally alive and kicking even past his middle age.
Yes. And this fourth collection, Moran, is, a turning point, not only in his own poetic career, but I would like to take the liberty to say this book marked a turning point in the history and the journey of Sindhi Ghazal, not only in India, but in India and Sindh.
Okay.
In both the provinces.
So it was a paradigm shift. In the Ghazal,
Yes,
it placed the Sindhi Ghazal on a different footing altogether.
It is the epitome of the modernism, I will say, in Sindhi Ghazal. Here, all the tendency of the modernism are expressed with all the intensity and with all the artistic touches. Here, this Mogo, it is a journey towards insight. It is an inward journey. Now Hasid is no longer concerned what happens in the society. He's not trying to tell anything to the government or the system, but he's concerned with an individual who is so struck by the melancholy and the disillusionment that outwardly appears to be an idiot or a moron. But he is not. He understands everything, that how the system has robbed him not only of these comforts, but the system, the socio-cultural, political system, economic system has robbed the common individual of his solace, of his comfort, of his dreams, of his hopes, of his ambitions, of his will, of his independence. So this contradiction, which was gradually setting in all over the world, has been captured by Hasid in his collection.
And what do you think is the hallmark of his ghazals or his poetry? How it is different from the traditional, of course, symbolism, imagery, language, but anything about the style?
Yes. Now, certainly I would like to give credit to Arjan Hasid to be the pioneer of intellectual ghazal. Ghazal, by its very definition, is conversation with a woman or talking about woman, and it is the description of the beauty of woman, love, separation, meetings, and all these things, right? Even Urdu and Hindi ghazal, to very great extent, continue to hum the same traditional themes. But Arjan Hasid, liberated Sindhi ghazal, right, from this sentimentally, from this romantic concerns, romantic longings for love and loss, and he established it on the intellectual pedestal. Arjan Hasid ghazal simply does not appeal to your heart, but it appeals to your brain, to your intellect, and makes you think what is going on around us, how we are responsible for it, why we should suffer for no fault of us, of our own. All these questions, they surface and resurface, and they make you think deeply where we are headed to, and why we are going there, and what is our benefit, how humanity can remain together. All these concerns, they have become the part of the ghazal. So this is something new. Number one, he has imparted intellectual touches to the ghazal. Secondly, at aesthetic level, his ghazal goes on becoming more and more silent and abstract. He saves himself from bold declarations.
Of course.
He saves himself from, bringing in some slogans in his ghazals. The language he uses is very abstract, full of metaphors and imagery, very abstract, a kind of liquidity. His language is characterized by liquidity, right? As Matthew Arnold says, liquidity, right? His language is liquid, right?
And if I remember well, we were conversing with him one day, and he said that the shairi should be indicative. It should just indicate. It should not proclaim or state very vehemently that this is this is that, this should be that.
Statement should not be there in the poetry.
It just should give a hint. It should indicate.
And ambiguity, unclarity, something said, something unsaid, that makes a poetry. And another, the stylistic experiment or the development we can see in his ghazals. The people who are familiar with the ghazal, it is made up of the shares, couplets. Couplet is up 2 lines. First line is there, and the second line is usually contradiction.
Yeah. Generally, share is based on the contradiction.
Yes,
like tazad, what we call tazad in Urdu. And
so he said, no. Why the effect of the share or the couplet should arise from the contradiction? We should be able to present one
complete
single thought in a couplet. Yeah. So he called it the couplet of straightforward sensibility, straight sensibility. He would say. Here, the second line is not the contradiction; it is the extension of the first line. It completes the thought that starts in the first line.
Yeah.
So this is important.
There is something really new. It generally is not seen in the ghazal.
No, it is not generally not seen.
Generally, it is not seen.
So he tried to have this kind of couplets in his ghazals. Another thing, those who are familiar with the meter of the ghazal, sometimes we use certain words, right?
Yeah.
Yaar, dost, like that, just to fill in the requirement of the meter. He was very particular. He would say, no, these are the fillers, and we should not use fillers in our ghazals. So that makes his ghazal compact without any just filler words.
Yeah.
So that's another care he would take when he wrote his ghazals, right? And then Rajesh,
was it the last collection Mogu?
Or no. Yeah. After that is another collection came. Sahi Pataji. Let me take a pause. Now here he is one with the nature. This collection is a wonderful aesthetic expression how nature can speak in different ways, how human beings and nature can become one, and how these natural symbols and imagery can communicate much more than we can think. So this particular collection, is a wonderful document from the point of view of eco-criticism.
So would you say it is Wordsworthian in its
not
dimensions?
Exactly Wordsworthian, because Wordsworth has a limited understanding of nature. Here nature is so graphically and so metaphorically represented, and in Wordsworth it is not that. In Wordsworth it speaks very
it's a plain
description of the nature, right?
Yeah.
But here nature is metamorphosed. Nature occupies a symbolic significance, and it becomes one with the human emotions, feelings, fears, hopes, dreams, and this integration is so artistically refined that you do not sometimes feel that the poet is talking about nature. So this is something very special about Hasid, and only the hand of the master can achieve this kind of marvel.
And Hasid was a well-rounded personality, literary personality. So apart from poetry, apart from ghazal also, I think he also tried his hand at short stories.
Yeah, before that is the last collection, Na Iye Na.
Na Iye Na. Yes. No, not like that.
So this is perhaps, I believe, that the last word that he has to say about life. All of us, when we look back, especially in the old age, so we cannot be satisfied. And these words spontaneously come out, na iye na. No, not like this.
No, not like that.
So, this is very important, right? So, regrets, incomplete things, unfulfilled dreams, they are the part and parcel of each one of us. So, this requires courage to confess in poetry, right? And before we come to his stories, right? I will like to say that Arjan Hasid took the Sindhi Ghazal to the epitome of modernism, and he initiated the process of postmodernism. Although I would like to say that his ghazals are not the full manifestation of postmodernism. Postmodernism, if we want to see in Sindhi ghazal, then we have to look at its prominent disciple Vasudev Mohi. So in Vasudev Mohi's ghazals, Sindhi postmodernism, Sindhi ghazal in postmodernism comes to its full flowering, especially in his Railaji Patadi Meri, published in 2005. And after that, Rajesh Gop Kamal and I have attempted to carry on this
Definitely, yeah,
tradition of postmodernism
Of course.
in Sindhi Ghazal. We all, including Vasdev Mohi, and me, and many other writers who are writing today, we all are the disciples of Arjan Hasid. He's the common master
Yes.
of us all, who has guided us personally through his writings. So he deserves a tribute from all the lovers of Ghazal in particular.
Yes, yes. And I would call him, he's the grand, old man of Sindhi Ghazal.
Yes. And not only in India, but in India and Sindh taken together,
Yeah.
it is he who has brought this dramatic transformation in Sindhi poetry. That has to be acknowledged historically. But today, where we see Sindhi Ghazal, it would not have been there if Arjan Hasid would not have understood the potential of Sindhi Ghazal, and if he would not have utilized that potential to take Sindhi Ghazal to intellectual and abstract level.
Yes, definitely, Vinodji. I mean, just could you give some illustrations of his shares, if you remember some of them?
From his early life, where he appears to be a romantic poet.
Yeah.
तुझो दिल बर करे दीदार हलिया वेंदा सी,
सांढे सीने में सजण प्यार हलिया वेंदा सी,
याद मुंहिंजी बि कॾहिं तोखे रुवारींदी ज़रूर, की न हूंदासीं जॾहिं
यार
हलिया वेंदा सी.
मूं फ़क़त तो सां, another ghazal
Yes,
sounds
yes.
that मूं फ़क़त तो सां कयो प्यार आ, ईअं नाहे, पर ॿिए कंहिं सां बि कोई करार आ, ईअं नाहे.
This is really wonderful.
Yeah.
I have not only loved you,
Ah,
but it is not that I have made a promise to someone else
Yeah.
as well.
yes.
So, this complexity of life gets reflected in his ghazal. Another, very, very wonderful, share, perhaps I may not be able to say in meter, in Sindhi, the हवाऊं खरीदे ऐं विकिणंदो आहियां, मां बि वॾो सेठ चवाईंदो आहियां.
Wow. I sell and buy winds. I am called the great, Seth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that is how he captures something where the ordinary poet does not see anything, but he captures that thought, he captures that impulse, he captures that emotion and writes a couplet. Now, you were talking about his
Short stories, yeah.
No, simply I cannot understand why in his 70s, right, he came out with the short story collection, Priyadarshini.
Acha.
15, 16, stories are there. They're good stories that way. But let me confess that his ghazals are great.
Yeah,
His stories are okay.
Maybe we are comparing his stories to his ghazals, his sensibility in his ghazals.
Yes.
Therefore, they do not strike us so well as, the
Perhaps
ghazals.
he wanted to reach the masses.
Yeah.
That must have been the intention.
Yeah.
And he also has contributed couplets that, Doha. Doha, right?
Yeah.
So that's another, his contribution. And
in criticism, did he write something?
no, he did not write
Okay.
a full book on the criticism.
Okay.
But he presented certain papers,
okay.
in conferences and seminars and
Yeah.
gave keynote addresses. I am the witness when he would speak, right, in any or read out his paper. It was it was not a paper as such. It gave the impression as if I was listening to poetic prose. He had that command over the language. He could use the language with all its poetic potentialities.
Maybe he could have collected all his papers, or somebody else also now can collect his papers if they are available and present a book out of it, make a book out of it.
Definitely. So those who would like to know something more about Arjan Hasid, they can read this monograph.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it is a really enriching contribution to the Sindhi criticism which you have written, monograph on Shri Arjan Hasid. And one more thing, Vinodji, you have translated his Sahitya Akademi award-winning collection. And do you intend to translate any of his later collections?
Yes, I do intend, because it is my personal mission that I want to translate as many books as possible in my lifetime, so that I can convey the beauty of Sindhi literature to the non-Sindhi audiences all over the world. Till date, I have translated 18 books.
Wonderful.
In 5 Sahitya Akademi awarded books, of course, of Arjan Hasid, Vasdev Mohi, Hari Dilgir, M. Kamal, and Nand Javeri.
So his letter collections also, because they are very very much enriching to the poetry.
Yeah,
So
I would like to appeal to the lovers of Sindhi literature, right, or some such institutions who are interested in literature. They must come forward to undertake this kind of projects where we can translate the entire writings of such great poets.
Yes, wonderful. So thank you, Vinodji. You have enlightened us today. And this monograph, naturally, this is in English, of course.
Yes.
And anybody can read and understand and get a glimpse into the great Sindhi poet Arjan Hasid through your work.
Thank you very much,
So
Rajesh
thank you, Vinodji,
for giving me this opportunity to discuss this wonderful book, the monograph on great poet Arjan Hasid.
Yes. Thank you, Vinodji.
Thank you very much.